All right. The subject of this Mishnah and the subject of this Mishnah, what I call this is a very important Torah idea. Just to give a few words of introduction. Halacha deals with a reality different than we deal with realities. We use scientific mediums to decide on what we're seeing, what we're doing, etc. And halacha uses practical things to come to the same conclusion. In other words, the two things are not exactly always the same. And this is something which we find many times in halacha that even though the halacha acknowledges the scientific fact, but it's not of interest to them. There's not the subject that they're dealing with. And one of the things which...
Let me know when you need this up on the screen.
And I'll give you it in a second. I don't need it yet. One of the things that's what we're going to learn about today is something which is called briyasa min hamayim, is called water. Briyasa min hamayim, as we're going to learn in this Mishnah, is like salt that's inside the ocean. Salt that's in the ocean, everybody knows. You don't have to be a modern day scientist to know that the water was salted, so to speak, and it's not water. It's salt in the water. Not only that, this is something which is common, that they used to have people who couldn't have water touch their skin. They would make something out of a fish, because fish is called briyasa min hamayim, and that's not chaytzitz because it's like water. So water doesn't mean water. We know that fish are part of a rava just like everything else, but it's still called briyasa min hamayim because briyasa min hamayim doesn't mean, I don't know the right word to use, that it's
spontaneous generation.
No. I'm not talking about that. It doesn't mean that it's a tolada of water. It's not. Doesn't mean that you're talking about how it's part of a rava. I'm not talking about that either. It's not. Doesn't mean that it's part of the water either. Just that it comes together with the water all the time, so we see it as water. Which is, we're going to see there's actually halacha later on about different kinds of insects that they also have a din like water, because they're always inside the water. No, theoretically, I don't know if anybody says like algae. Algae is would be called water possibly. We don't think that algae is water. Nothing with spontaneous generation. It's part of the water. When we say part of the water, we don't mean that it's
H2O.
Those,
But what do we mean? What?
The New York City water, there was a question years ago about there are microbes that you can't see, that maybe it's a problem. Why don't you say that it's water?
Okay, the answer to that question is what you said is 100% wrong. They are not microbes, and you can see them. I saw them.
Without a microscope.
Without a microscope. You can see it without a microscope.
You wouldn't want to drink it anyway.
No, I don't think I don't know if I wouldn't want to drink it anyway. But this was written up. This was actually written up quite a bit, that they're big. Now, a lot of things you don't see, and this was relevant also in the orange juice scandal. We have over here a guy from Florida, so I don't want to speak too much about Tropicana right now. But there was a big to-do about Tropicana orange juice about 7 years ago, based on the following fact. Tropicana orange juice is like McDonald's. McDonald's is miyuchad, that it tastes the same whether you're in New York, Florida, Vancouver, South Africa, and China. It has the exact same taste. That's part of the gimmick of it. It has to be the same thing everywhere. And Tropicana orange juice has to taste the same all year round. So there's a challenge in producing an orange juice that has the exact same taste, never wavering. And there are different ways that they do this. One of the ways that they do it, they have additives that they put in. The additives have to be natural. And what they do is they like grind part of the rind of the peel or whatever. They squeeze out some of the juice and they put it into it, and that's what gives part of what gives it its continuous flavor. That's how they do it. Now, in order to do that, they have to grade the rinds, and when they grade the rinds, the bugs that are the kinemet, I don't know, there must be some English word for that. Actually, I have no idea what it's called. I never saw them until I came to Israel. I don't think they really have them much in America. When they do, they take them off. So these bugs are found inside the orange juice. Now, I'll just tell you, I'm right now reading to you emails that I saw. The original person who came out with this problem, he says that they're big enough that you can see them, and they go through the sifter that's used to strain the orange juice. And he gives the exact dimension of it. And he said if you would use what's called the Bnei Brak sifter, which is what people use nowadays for flour, he said it would not go through, which that is called a 70 mesh. It's 70, I think, per centimeter, 70 strands of I don't know, plastic or whatever it's called, all this stuff. And they'll go, they're 70, 60, 50s. The one that Tropicana uses, if I'm not mistaken, is a 50. And so anything that goes through between a 50 and a 70 can be seen. The reason why you don't see it is because it's inside orange juice. So it's inside a cloudy yellow thing. So you're not going to see something which is an off-white color. It's just not going to happen. But if you would drain it, you'd be able to see it. So that was the alleged accusation. You could see it, and it's there, and it's no good. So the person wrote the OK is one who gave a hechsher on it, and the person wrote to them, and they responded that they strain it, and there's no problem. The problem is that they write that the size of strainer that they use is a 50, not a 70, which doesn't take care of the problem. Then eventually, this question went to Chaim Kanevsky, and I had a transcript of the conversation which he had. According to what I read, that what he answered doesn't really have to do with the facts. So it's not exactly 100% clear to me the bottom line, but being that I don't live in Florida, I'm not really worried about Tropicana orange juice. Doesn't make much of a difference to me. But this is
yeah, but Tropicana is worldwide, isn't it?
I don't know. I haven't seen it in Ramat Shlomo.
It's Osherad carries it sometimes.
Exactly. I've seen it in Eretz Israel.
I think other stores too.
Sure. Like the small containers, like the
Okay, fine. Just saying it's not part of my life. What I can just tell you, it's not part of my life, so I'm not really concerned about it. Not the people in America deal with their issues. But if someone's really interested, I'd probably have a record of it, because I found this a fascinating thing. It's extremely interesting, because the part of the question is that bug only walks once in its life, from the time that it's hatched until it attaches itself to a peel of an orange. And as soon as it does, it sheds its feet and its hands. So there are those that said that it's not called a berry anymore because it does not have all of its limbs, and therefore it's batel. And others who said no, because that's the way it lives and is an adult without hands and feet. So that's called full. It lost its baby teeth, whatever you want to call it. It's a fascinating. There was a lot of Torah was learned on the on the schus of Mrs. Tropicana over there. Anyways, but the bottom line, those things which they, according to what I read, Shlomo, I you know what I read about those bugs, they're definitely the size that you could see them. At least there are some of them that are at that size. But anything that you cannot see, that's clear. The Darkei Tshuva says that has absolutely no validity to it. Anything which is below, anything which is microscopic has no value to it. Not only that, I'll just make this clear. In my opinion, they used to have this thing called microfiche, right? Like microfilm. Microfiche was bigger than the microfilm, and theoretically, you could use a magnifying glass and read it. I told somebody that you could take it into the bathroom. I don't think it has a din of any. It's nothing. That's called nothing. It's just like taking your computer into the bathroom, even though it has Torah stored on it. There's no Torah stored on your computer. There's no such thing. There's no drawer inside that has anything. Yeah, Yechiel, you're masking?
I'm asking.
Because
Now,
there's something.
and how does this fit into the salt in the sea?
No. That's because he asked me. So the salt in the sea, a person is allowed to theoretically be toivel in the salt, or the salt is cold water. It's not cold water because we think that it's water. We know what it is, but that doesn't bother us. That's the subject.
And the salt of our Mishnah has to be sea salt?
Yes, that's the Mefarshim say. Now, what the Mishnah is going to tell us is ice water.
Yes and no.
Okay, you sound like a Jew.
It's male, so it's water.
That's the Mishnah we're going to learn.
And it's not paisel, right?
Okay, so this is the Mishnah. This is the Mishnah we're going to learn. That's an introduction that we're speaking about. It's not that we don't know what ice is. We know exactly what ice is, but ice is not water. Now, we know that it's made from water and it's going to go back to water. We know all those things, but that has nothing to do with what it is. So we have to know how to classify it. And not only that, the halacha we're going to discuss that there are different kinds of ices, and that's that piece of paper that Parrots has. We'll get it in a minute. All right. Yesh malin es hamikvah v'loy poislin. There are things that, even though that they're sha'uv, they don't pass on a mikvah. Because why is that? The problem is a person has wine that falls into the mikvah. The fact that the wine was inside a kli doesn't make a difference. Why? Because it's not water. Water that's sha'uv is a problem. If it's not water, then the fact that it's sha'uv is irrelevant. Maybe you have other problems, but the sha'uv problem is a water issue. So these things, I lost my place. Yesh ma'alin mikvah v'loy paislin. There are those that are paisel v'loy ma'alin. Loy ma'alin v'loy paislin. Elu ma'alin v'loy paislin. These are the ones that are ma'alin, not paisel. Hashelek, Habarod, from this week's parsha. Hakfor, which is frost. Haglid, when I was a child, so we used to have these puddles, and they had like this, we used to call it these sheets of glass on top of them, and you would jump into them with your boots and then break the glass. That was like from the, I miss it a little bit, but I don't know what that's the frozen over water. I know at Parrots, they didn't have that in Chicago because they only had deep snow. Anyways, V'melach, and melach, the titanirok is watery mud. All of those things are called water. The gabe ma'alin es hamikvah. They're water enough to be called ma'alin es hamikvah, but they're not water enough that they don't pass a mikvah. Why? Because they're not water. So are they water? Aren't they water? That's the subject which we're going to learn over here. Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Hayir Rabbi Shmuel Don Kenegdi Laima, Shalagenu Ma'ales HaMikvah. No, shalag is not water. Vehidu Anshe Mediva B'Shmoy, Sha'amar Lahem Tzuba B'Shalag V'Asu Mikvah Batchila. that's 100% kosher. You can make yourself a lechatchila mikvah out of snow. Very interesting. He speaks about the ice is like mayim. I don't know why. Why do you speak about that one in particular? Maybe we'll see. Okay. Now, by the way, why is it? This is a little bit relevant to this Mishnah. Why is it that ice floats in your drink?
Air.
Nope. Water
It
is the
expands.
exception. Right,
It
it's the
expands
exception. It's
at
the
just
only
at freezing till it gets lower than that. Then it shrinks again.
right. It's the only liquid that does that. All other liquids, when they freeze, all things when they freeze, they restrict. They become smaller. Whereas water, when it turns into ice, it expands. And being that it expands, so it's lighter than the liquid water because there's less weight to the volume, and therefore it floats. Look at that. This is a little bit
less density.
what?
Less density.
Less density, correct. Okay, this is going to be relevant for us here today. That idea. It's not a science class. Okay. Ketzad ma'alin v'lei paislin mikvah sheyesh bo arboim so chaser achas v'nafel mehem so letoichoi, and they saw of shuvim of ice, snow, whatever it is, fell in. Helu nimtzo ma'alin es v'nailin v'lei paislin. Now I will just tell you that I was speaking to somebody about a month ago that he made a mikvah out of snow, out of ice, which is done nowadays in different places, whether you can make it out of artificially made ice or not. It has to be naturally made ice. There's a tshuva nigusmaisho, that's a different story. But I discussed with him what the Achronim discussed, that what do you do about the melting on the way? So he looked at me like I was a caveman, and he said, we have trucks with refrigeration. Doesn't have to melt. And I was really pretty surprised because there's unbelievable amount of weight. The ice, we're talking about a serious amount of ice. So just its pressure should cause some kind of melting. But whatever, this is done. This is actually done nowadays. It seems that they're able to, I guess, get the trucks to be cold enough that it cancels out that aspect. All right. Now, Peretz, you want to put that piece of paper there?
Okay. 1 second.
What is an ice mikvah used for? For kalim or for people?
For people. If you live in Arizona and you want to make a mikvah, how do you do that? Yes.
You make a mikvah.
Where do you get the water from?
Where do you get the water from? Oh.
From the Bered.
It's just like in Israel. You have to wait for a certain time of year when you get rain.
But not in all places in the desert do they have that. I spoke to somebody who was who was very involved with the Boyashiv and Mikvos. I spoke to him many years ago about using the condensation from the air conditioners. No, yeah. Now the problem with that is that usually it drips onto a metal thing, and pshutei klimatres have a din of makabel tuma, but there are ways to overcome that issue. And if I'm not mistaken, he told me that Abu Yasher sometimes was masking that you could do that too.
In a dry climate, there's not so much of that either.
What?
The dry climate, there's not so much of that either.
There's not so much, but your air conditioner is on quite a bit of time. You don't have so much of that, but there is.
When it's like 10, 15% humidity, you're not going to get much water out of there.
You're not going to get much, but you get.
Yeah.
You get. All right, listen, you got to do what you can do. I would imagine that nowadays it's easier to just truck it in, from wherever. They could use the leftover dry ice that they used to bring in the vaccine.
Nowadays machines lechatchila take water out of the air on purpose, just to have water.
Okay.
They have that at the hotel.
Yeah,
At
by
the
the
hotel. Yeah,
That's real shuvim.
Or it's real water
I
from
don't
the air.
know. I don't know if that's considered shuvim. That's
Well, it's moving because it's in a container after it's formed, but it's,
All right, fine. Anyways, I will just tell you, there's a Korban Nesan al Psachim, which discusses keeping the bags of wheat against the walls of a storehouse, and the walls sweat if that water makes chametz when it mixes with the flour, or it doesn't have a din of water or not. Now, this idea that not all waters are created equal is all over the place. But there he at the end of the day, he says it has a din of water and there's no heter. Anyways, let's just read this. Yesh kan minim nastis gimel kitash kol chilukim shoinim. Hakita rishayna he mashalek v'abod v'akfor v'aglit. Kulam he mayim mamish. They're all water. Ela de einam noizlin k'mayim, they're not liquid. Rakem dover kush mach mashen kfuim. Hashalek ma'ir shemir chalolo v'oz morid nefach shaloi. You obviously have to take the air out of it in order to, it has to displace that amount of water as a liquid. We're going to see that that's not so clear according to everybody. Okay, but Gimel minim arishonim eila shag babar lakfor yordim v'nashamayim.
wait, why do you have to press the snow?
Because you have to get rid of the air.
Why?
Because it's not.
You can't use it till it melts anyway, and then you'll see if it's 40 cents.
Whoa. Why can't you use it till it melts?
Well, certainly if you press it, you can't use it.
Why can't I use it before it melts?
How are you going to get yourself or something enveloped in it if it's pressed?
Well, before it's pressed, you skipped. You did not. You cheated on your question. You started one place, you ended up somewhere else. Can a person toivel in a mound of snow?
yes.
Yes. Okay. So now you want to know if I have a mound of snow that's 40 saw, and there's air inside of it, is that good enough, or do I have to have one that's 50 saw, and this way I have 40 saws worth of snow?
It doesn't say that in the Mishnah.
It doesn't say either way in the Mishnah.
No, the
You
Mishnah
made
says,
an assumption, and then you
wait.
made an attack. What?
The Mishnah says you have a mikvah that's missing a saw, and you put a saw of this in it, then it works. It doesn't say you can make the whole mikvah out of this.
That's true. We're going to learn about that shortly. But in that case, in your case, so then it will get in the smayach by itself, right? When you put snow into a mikvah, so immediately the water will fill the holes, even before it melts. How come it's quiet? What happened? Who did I lose? Hello? People here?
We're here.
I'm still there.
Right? So if I'm going to take a saw and put it into a 39 saw thing of water, so it's not going to register 40 saw.
Bidoreno, we know we have a yachas of 10 to 1. 10
One more
inches of
time?
Bidoreno, we know there's a yachas of 10 to 1.
There's
Everyone
no,
knows
I
10
don't know
inches of
what
snow,
you're talking about.
10 inches of snow. Let me
Whatever you're saying is shtusim. Why do I say whatever you're saying is shtusim? Because you can ask somebody like Paris. It depends. Was it wet snow or dry snow?
10 inches of snow, generally.
What?
It depends on the temperature.
1 inch of rain.
It depends on the temperature.
It cannot be. It cannot be. There's no such thing. You sometimes have teeny weeny flakes when it's very cold, and sometimes you have very big flakes when it's warm.
It's a rule of thumb, they say, but it's not always.
Yeah, it can't be. There's no chok. There's no chok to this. There's no chok. Just for your information, Ari.
Yeah.
Ari,
Yes, I'm here.
Snowballs. You have packing snow and non-packing snow.
True.
What's the rule of thumb? Some you gotta crunch it, and some you don't, right? Let's
Right.
talk tachlis. You know what snow's made for, right?
Snowballs.
There can't be another reason to make snow, is there?
Right.
Anyways, all right. Anyway, let's just finish up this piece over here. I wanted to at least get this. Fine. But give them in already. Fine. That's simple. Habar who geshem kafu. The yared baroy pamim bakayets. I don't know. I had it on my roof tonight. Hakvar who gamken yared min hashamayim. Aval hu min ha'avim shehu makam agashamim. Vakfar eino min geshem. Elaba min halachus shebe'edim k'moy atal. By the way, does somebody want to tell me when I was lived in America, you used to say there's going to be sleet and rain. What does that word sleet mean?
It's like frozen raindrops.
So what is that?
It
Barak?
freezes when it hits the ground, basically, or close to hitting the ground.
So it's boron.
Kind
No,
of.
barred is usually like those cut balls, you know.
Barad
No, I understand, but
frozen
just
air.
boron it turns into ice higher up, and the sleet turns into ice lower down. That's the only difference.
But
And
sleep
Barad
is
also
pretty
does a
much
few
when it hits
trips.
the ground. It freezes.
Borat also does a few trips back up.
It comes down. Sleet comes down as a liquid, and then it freezes on the ground. That's what it is.
Or on the way down.
It's either comes as a liquid or as like a slush kind of thing.
All right. Anyways,
Borat makes a
I
few trips
forgot.
back up.
All
Borat
right.
gets blown back
Akvar
up.
eina min geshem elba min alachos. Fine. V'hu dak ma'oy ka'ofer. Ka'efer. Okay, fine. Okay. V'chein ksiv v'chulu. Now let's get to Masha Gasa Rama Yer min ha'ovim v'chein Masha V'rash tzarch l'farish lo svilei l'arif. Okay. Elahu kein geshem kafoy abarin. You get to all these guys, all these fellows, they're all rains, a different sort. V'aglid nasim in hamayim gufa haminochim al aretz abitoch hagamim v'tzaf agava machmas the mishkal shel mayim makfuim hen kalim and mishkal mayim manoizim. This is the idea what you said before. Anyways, but that's all these things are different kinds of rain, and all of them are not water-like. Now, I just want to dispel what I'm finished with this. You want to get rid of it. I just want to dispel what Ladaiti is the mistake which people may make over here. It's not because these things don't need a kli. That's not the issue over here. In other words, one may think over here the reason why that these things don't have a psul of shuvim is because they're not dependent on a kli for transportation. That's not the vart over here. The vart over here is that they're not water. They're not water. So therefore, you could use them. You could use them to make a mikvah without having a problem of shuvah. Now, I just like to discuss Peretz's ha'ara over here, which is a good diak. The simple reading of the Mishnah, at least in the beginning, says yesh ma'alim v'loy poisim le'ma'alim. It sounds like, and Sheffer, you should have picked up on this diak that you have a mikvah of 35, and then you're being mashlim it with these things. That's called being ma'ale, right? And that's what Peretz asserted. It doesn't say over here that you can make a mikvah out of snow. It just says that you can be mashlim it with snow. So what I have to say to that, that's a very nice deal. But if you look at the rest of the Mishnah seems to say the exact opposite. What does it say, the rest of the Mishnah? Parrots.
Yeah, are we done with the share?
Yes, we're done with it.
Done with it? Okay.
Yeah. What does it say? What did the Anshe B'diva say?
You can make one.
You make the whole
From
mikvah out
scratch.
of it. From scratch. You can make it from scratch. So this seems to indicate not like you were saying.
That's the
Right?
machlokas of the Mishnah.
Maybe. Why do you say that? Maybe this is just a pirush of the Mishnah.
I just looked at the last line in the Mishnah.
Well, you're a cheater. What do you see in the last line?
Ketzan malim v'lo poslim.
Yeah.
Doesn't say you can fill a mikvah with it. It says something much less than that.
Well, I will just tell you that the simple understanding, and this is actually there's a Gemara which seems to say this clearly, anything that can be maila, you can make a mikvah out of. What in the world, for what you're saying, demands some kind of a sort to explain what you're saying. How could you come up with such a strange idea, which I'm not saying that you're wrong, such a strange idea that you could be mashlim in the mikvah, and you can't make a mikvah out of it? Is it water or isn't it water?
This is, can you make a mikvah totally out of titanarok?
That one, out of all of them, that one is maybe yes, maybe no.
Or melach, to put it that way. Can you make a mikvah out of melach?
Could be.
We could use 2.5 lugin of mayim shuvim.
Could be. I get there's this. The Mishnah Achrona discusses that question. Titanirok is a Mishnah in Perek Beis, which has enforced that you can't, and there's could be there's a reason for that in particular. But I'll just right now I'm going to read Halach and Shulchan Aruch. Next week we're going to do this Mishnah again. We'll see the Shitas Harai with the Rishonim because it's a fascinating Mishnah. I'm going to read the Halach and Shulchan Aruch. If you want, can you get it, parrots? Reish Aleph Lamed. You're there. Fine. Okay. Ein Shiva Paiseles Ela B'mayim. Aval HaSheleg V'Abord V'Akfor V'Amelech V'Atit Shehu Av K'tzas Afilo Yesh B'Rachos Shecholim Mariko Mikli Lekli. It's still pourable. Ein Shiva Paiseles V'Hem She'im Shov Me'elu L'Mikvah Choser Loi Paslu. Get a load of this. Ela Afilo also Kol HaMikvah Misheleg Akfor Oibaret She'Veu B'Kli V'Asa Me'ah Mikvah Kosher. So the Shulchan Aruch is very unforgiving to parrots. Makes it clear that Ein Tzad Ba'olam, they can do it, and the Lashon of the Mishnah is just speaking about the normal case that that's what it's used for. Okay, you have
No, that doesn't. Excuse me, Rabbi. All it means is it's picking up the second manda amar, not the first one.
Who says that there's a machlokes?
I said that a minute ago.
I didn't say that.
I said that.
You said that. Okay, I
And the Rav said
apologize.
to you, and the Rav said to you that maybe it's not a machlokas, maybe it's an explanation.
And all I'm suggesting is maybe the Shulchan Aruch is pasking like that manda amar. That's all.
Okay, so but then you will have to explain the difference between the two. Why should it be one way, not the other? Okay, but now we're going to see parrots. Do you have a shach? Hello, parrots?
Let me find it here. I have the
That's
Taz
just-
here. Give me a minute to find it. So,
I'll just the shach vehemently is opposed to the machaber, and he says nothing doing. You cannot
here, we
use.
got it.
You have it.
I have it there, yeah.
Ayin Aleph. Okay, very good. Ayin Beis Yesher because of das kol hapoiskim shemuter litful b'shalei. Im yesh bo memsa, there's no problem. Maskina mikol mokom and lahokol asas ma'isa. This is the Raisa connected of Elazar of Simcha. Now, I just want to mention something. When I learned Mikvah the first time, I had a question that really bothered me. And today, all I could do is laugh at my question. It's a ridiculous question. I was learning this whole thing, and I said, how could a person toivel inside snow? The water has to touch you all over. And if we just said that snow has air pockets, so how could you toivel in it?
Won't it melt up against your body?
Maybe,
It's
maybe not.
considered part of the snow.
It's considered part of the snow. Okay.
Just like I'm making a bad comparison. You have sponge cake. So the air in the sponge cake is also considered part of the cake.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a bad comparison. Maybe it's a good comparison.
Who said the space is a problem for the skin? It's a problem for the volume.
No, but there's another halacha. A person has to have the water touching his skin. There's no such halacha.
Does water, if you're gonna get down to water, actually has spaces in between things too?
Again, anything which you can't see doesn't exist. If I would have, I'm sure that there's some kind of a device today that they already created. I could go underwater and have something blowing air all around me and keep me dry. I'm sure that there exists such a thing. Anybody know?
Don't seltzer.
Go in seltzer. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, maybe. But I'm saying if I can even have something that has only air around, would that be a kosher tefillah?
Am I allowed to aerate the water in a mikvah?
All these fancy English words that you use
Like an aquarium pump that makes bubbles in the
mean nothing to me.
Like an aquarium pump.
I don't say I don't know what it means. It means nothing to me. When I look at the water in the aquarium, do I see air? No.
No, okay.
What about a dry schwitz? You walk in there, it's totally dry, but you come out and you're soaking wet.
So we could toivel in you. What is that? You obviously come from Florida where it's wet. I don't know. What do you want? What do you want from the dry shits? There's no water there.
There's no water, but you come out and you're wet.
But you have to still be at a mikvah. Where's the mikvah?
You go to Tel Aviv in the summer and you'll come out wet and without going to Schwitz.
Or Chicago.
Chicago, you'll turn out into ice.
Right.
All right. Anyways, so this is okay. We'll stop over here, I guess.
So how did the Rav solve the snow problem?
I believe that Ari's right. I believe Ari's right. If we see snow, we see snow. No, it's not everybody holds. We'll see next week. Not everybody holds that you have to get rid of the air pockets. Who says you have to get rid of the air pockets? I like that zushtel to the sponge cake.
Thanks.
Well, you say I'm nothing against you. If you say something good, it's great. Right? All right. All right. We'll see you next week.
Is the Rav available in a little bit?
Yeah, you can call me.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. Have a good day.
Good
Good night. Okay. Bye.